Hey guys, welcome back to Mr. Deep Coding channel. I hope you're all doing amazing. Now, I know that you have been eagerly waiting for a new episode, and the good news is that I do now have free time to record new videos, and of course, we'll continue from where we left with our social media app series. So in today's episode, the main feature will be adding data store to our project, and in our case, we'll be implementing the Proto Datastore to persist the out result data that comes from our server when the user signs up or logs in, because that out result also contains the user token that we need to make decision whether we should send the user to the login screen or not. But before we get to the Proto Datastore implementation, as you can see here on my screen, if you see my device, this login screen now contains this don't have an account and sign up text composable. This is just a simple row that contains two text composables, and the second one is clickable. Let me quickly show you that, because you need to add this in order for us to continue. Normally I should have included this in last episode, but if you remember, I just cut the video because I was already tired. Anyway, let me show you what you need to add to your project before we continue coding together. So right below this login composable, I'm now inside this login screen.kt. I have this go to sign up composable that takes two parameters. The second one is on navigate to sign up, and the first one is of course the modifier. And inside that, I have a row with two text composables. The second one have this clickable modifier, inside which we are calling this on navigate to sign up function. Now this go to sign up composable is inside our login screen right below the login button, and we are passing this on navigate to sign up that we need also to take as a parameter for our login screen composable. Now the actual navigation is handled inside this login kt file. As you can see here, we are using this navigator that comes that will be provided by our compose destinations library, and we navigate to the sign up destination. After navigating, we remove the destination from the backstack by adding this pop-up to login destination inclusive set to true. So you need to add this. You will of course do the same for the sign up screen also, and the navigation to the login screen is also handled inside this signup.kt file, as you can see here. Great. Now as you can see, of course, if you click on one of the text, it will normally send you to a new screen. Great. So after adding this, we can close now these four files. All right, so I want you to, first of all, let's close this Auth package, and I want you to open the common package and then the component package inside it. If I go into Google Chrome, as you can see, we need an app bar, and this app bar changes the title according to the currently displayed screen. Like for example, at our home page screen, it's showing social app as the title, and it does also have these action buttons where you can click and navigate to some other screen, and for example in this case to go to the profile screen. And for some other screens, the app bar also include the navigation back icon. So we'll need to manage all that. Let me go back inside Android Studio, and inside this component package we're going to create a new Kotlin file that I will name app bar. Select file and hit enter. Now this of course will be a composable app bar, and this composable need first of all a modifier, and I will pass a default modifier. It also need an nav host controller. You'll see why in a second. Let me add space. Now inside this app bar composable, we need to call a top app bar from material team, and we will pass the title later. Let's for now pass the modifier, and we also need to pass a background color, and for the background color we'll use material team dot colors dot surface, like so. Great. Now for the title, like I said, the title is changing depending on the currently displayed screen, and that's why we need to receive this nav host controller, because with that we can add we can have the current destination, and I will call current destination as state from nav host controller dot value. Now with this current destination we can change the title, but before we go to that, let me surround this top app bar call with a surface. That way we can have elevation. So for the surface I will also pass the modifier, and I will need an elevation, and for that we'll be using small elevation. Great. Now for the title, we need a way to, like I said, to change the title depending on the currently displayed screen. For that, below this composable function, I need to create one more function, an helper function that I will name get app bar title, and this take current destination route, which is a nullable string, and it needs to return an integer that represents the string resource for the title. So from here I need to use a when expression when current destination dot route is, first of all, login destination dot route. In that case we need to return a new string resource. Let's first of all import R, import class, then we can just create a new string resource that I will name here login destination title, like so. Alt enter to create a new string resource, and we'll name this as login. So when it's sign up destination dot route, in that case we need to return dot string dot, let's create another sign up destination title, alt enter, and we're going to name this as sign up, or you can name it registration if you want to. When it's home screen destination dot route, I need to return the app name, so I will call this home destination title. We're going to return social app, else we need to return an empty string resource that I will name a no destination title, like so, and we can just return an empty string. Of course we need to return from the when expression, like so. Now for our title we'll need a text composable called string resource, and for the ID we will call get app bar title and pass this current destination dot route, like so. Let me reformat all this and close the project panel. Great. So after adding this title modifier in the background, we need to add actions, and for now we're just going to have this profile action icon here. Where is that? For our home screen, I already included this resource inside. Let me go back into what's happening here. Let me go back inside Android Studio. So I already included that icon inside our drawable folder, this one here, person circle icon.xml, as well as this icon here for the navigation icon to navigate back. So let me close this. So for our action, let me first of all call animated visibility, because I want this profile icon to show only on the home screen, and I need kind of animation when we show and hide that icon. So for the visible, I will pass current screen dot route if that is equal to our home screen destination dot route. Then you should show this icon here, and which icon will be icon button. The click we will handle that later. For the content, we need an icon using painter, and we'll pass painter resource, and the ID will be r.drawable.person circle icon. For the content description, we can pass null for now. Let's reformat the code. That's all I need for now, as we don't have any other screen that require an action icon. So below that action, and below these actions, I need a navigation icon. So for the navigation icon, let me go back inside Google Chrome. So as you can see, our home screen as well as registration and login screen don't need a navigation icon, so it will depend on the currently displayed screen. For most of the screen, however, they will need this navigation icon. So let me go back inside Android Studio. Below this get app bar title function, I'm going to add another helper function that I will name should show navigation icon, and this also will take current destination route and will return a boolean. For now, let's just return false, since we don't have any screen that need the navigation icon. So we'll put some other logic here later when we create other screens. So for the navigation icon, we first of all need to check if we should show the navigation icon, and for that we're going to pass current destination dot route. If so, then we need to emit a composable that will be an icon button. The content will be icon painter resource r.drawable.round arrow back. The content description, you can provide it, or like in my case I will just pass null. Let's reformat the code. Else, if we shouldn't show the navigation icon, then we need to pass null composable, like so. That way the navigation icon will not be shown. And yeah, now we need to call this top app bar. Let me open the project panel, open this social app.kt file. So we need a scaffold to pass the top app bar that we've just created. But before we come to that, let me first of all add here a scaffold state. We need to call remember scaffold state. I also need, when we enter this social app composable, to change the status bar color. For that, I will need a system UI controller that you can also get by calling remember system. Where is that? Remember system UI controller, like so. So before we go to the scaffold, let me first of all try to change the system status bar, and for that we need a variable here to check if we are currently in dark mode or not. So I'll call this is system in dark, and we will call the composable is system in dark, and then our status bar color, status bar color. For that, we will first of all check if is system in dark mode. In that case, we need to pass material theme.colors.surface. Else it means we are in light mode. We need to pass material theme.colors.surface, but this time I need to modify the alpha, and I will need 0.95. Now below the status bar color, we need to call side effect and call system UI controller dot set status bar color. For the color, we will use our status bar color. For whether to show dark icons or not, we'll need to use that if we are in light mode. So if not, system is in dark, like so. Great. Now you can cut this destination's nav host. So from here we need to call our scaffold. What am I doing? And let's first of all take the inner paddings. Now paste our destination's nav host. We need to add the modifier. Modifier will be modifier dot padding, and we will take our inner paddings like so. Let's reformat all this. We need to pass the scaffold state. First of all, let's pass that as scaffold state. Then we need to pass a top app bar, and for the top app bar, we're going to use this app bar composable inside our appbar.kt file. So call this app bar, which need a nav host controller, and for the nav host controller, we'll pass this nav host controller that we have there. Man, what's happening? All right, nav host controller like so. Now we can launch our app and test and see if the app bar is working. So let's run the app. The app is launching. So right, so as you can see, the app bar is showing without any problem. If we navigate to the sign up screen, the title is changing. Let's try to look the lights mode. Yeah, so as you can see, this also is working without any problem. So the next thing is then to implement the Proto Datastore. Alright, so next we need to add Datastore to our application. Now, in case you don't know Datastore, it's the replacement for shared preferences. If you have already worked with shared preferences before, you know all the cons of shared preferences. Now, Datastore is a better solution because it has that async API that uses Kotlin, coroutines and flow, which also makes our life a lot easier. Actually, Datastore has two implementations. It has Preferences Datastore, which, like shell preferences, allows you to store key value pairs, and it also has Proto Datastore, which allows you to store typed object. We're going to use Proto Datastore, and to use Proto Datastore implementation, you can either use protocol buffers or Kotlin serialization. And since in our project we already have Kotlin serialization plugin, we're going to use that approach to implement Proto Datastore inside our application. So for further information on Datastore, like migrating encrypting your data store, and etc. I will include the links in the video description. You can check that out to get further information or to learn more on data store. Now, before we move in implementing Proto Datastore, I want you to open the build.gradle.kts file inside our Android project. You'll need to apply the Kotlin actualization plugin. You can copy the one from, the one from build.gradle.kts file inside our shared module. You need to copy this one and apply the Kotlin actualization for our Android project as well. And you will also need to change this Kotlin actualization dependency from API to from implementation to API. That way we don't need to include this inside our Android project build.gradle file again. So after doing all that, you can press the sync button and wait until the build is done. So I'm going to close this. Now, to implement Proto Datastore, we first of all need to define a structure of the kind of data that we'd like to persist, of course. And what we'd like to persist here, let me go inside shared module, open the common main, then data, then domain, then model. This is the kind of information we're getting from the server. And this is Auth result, which comes from our domain model. So since we need a way to persist this data, we can't use directly this Auth result data that comes from our domain model. Instead, let me go back in our Android project. Inside this common package, I want you to create a new package and that we are going to name as data store. Now inside this data store, let's create first of all a Kotlin file that will name user settings. You can name it user preferences if you want to. Select file and hit enter. We first of all need a data class of the same name, and I want you to copy this data here. These properties here and paste them inside our user settings. You need to make sure that all the properties inside these user settings are immutable, so don't use any var here. Use vals everywhere. And the next thing is to annotate our user settings data class with @serializable. Come on, where is that? Okay, @serializable. Then let's create two mappers function to map from auth result data to user settings and from user settings to auth result data. So I'll have here two functions. So come back to our user settings. We need to add default values here. For our ID, we'll add, for example, -1. And for the name, we'll pass an empty string. For the bio, pass also an empty string. And for the token, we'll pass an empty string. Later, we will check if the token is empty, and that way we know that we already requested to check on our file disk if we already have a user settings data or not. That way we'll send the user to the login screen. Now next we need to define a data store serializer which tells Proto Datastore how to read and write our data. And for that, you'll come inside our data store package. We're going to create a new Kotlin file that I will name user settings serializer. Is that correct? Yeah. So select file. We need to create a new object, user settings serializer, that extends serializer from androidx.datastore.core, and we will pass our user settings First, let's override the default value, which will be the value returned whenever we need to return default user settings. And for that, we just need to return a new user settings. We need also to override the read from. Inside this read from, we're going to write code to transform stored data into representation or to return a user settings from the data that is being stored. Let's first of all implement the write to. That way you can understand what I'm talking about. So inside this write to function is where we transform our data, our user settings, into a format that fits for the storage, into a format that Datastore knows how to store. And for that, we're going to call our output.write, and let's call a JSON from Kotlin X serialization, JSON.encode to string. We need to pass a serializer, and that will be our user settings dot serializer, and we need to pass the value that we want to serialize, and that is the t, which is our user settings. Then we need to call encode to byte array, encode to byte array, like so. Now for the read from, we need to return a new user settings object. So for that, we first of all need a try catch. Now we need a try catch here for whenever the data cannot be deserialized, we need to return something. That's why we need to catch serialization exception. We need to catch this serialization exception, which is thrown whenever we cannot deserialize our data. And in that case, we need to return our default value. Now in the try block, we first of all need to call a JSON from Kotlin X serialization, decode from string, select this option here. For the deserializer, we will pass our user settings dot serializer again, and for the string, we'll pass input dot read byte dot decode to string, like so. Now our user settings serializer is done. Now we need to return a Datastore instance to access our persisted data. And for that, since we have a dependency injection mechanism inside our project, we're going to provide a single instance each time that Datastore instance is required. I want you to open this DI package and open app-module.kt file. Now below our view models, we need to return a single of what? Let's call first of all database. What am I doing? And Datastore factory.create. For the serializer, we're going to pass our user settings serializer. And for the file, let's call this produce file. We're going to create a new disk file, we'll need a context. For that, we can call this Android context from coin.datastore file, and the file name will be whatever you can give here. I will call this as our app user settings, like so. Great. Now let me close this, and we can also close all of these, like so. Now we need to go back inside our Auth package, open the login, and open login view model.kt. Now from here we need a data store instance. We're going to receive that private val data store. It should be data store of our user settings. Now, whenever the result is success, we need to call our data store dot update data. Now, this update data takes a block which will apply all changes that is made to this user settings. And for that to update data, we will call simply our we need to call it.copy. For the ID, we'll call our auth result data.data and .id, or we can just call let me call auth result data.data to user settings, like so, because we already have this mapper function. So I think we need to do the same for our SANGAP view model. Let's open that quickly. We need a data store, private file data store, user settings. So when the registration is successful, we need to call data store.update data, and from here we'll pass our auth result data and to user settings. Now I'm forced unwrapping this because whenever the result is success, we are sure that the data field here would never be null. That's how we implemented the logic inside our shared module. That's why also I can force unwrap this. If the result is success, then the data field would never be null or empty. I think that's what we need for now inside our SANGAP view model. Now go back inside our app module.kt. We'll need to call this a get for the data store which we provide here. So just call this coin get function here, which will look for this one. Great. Now we can close, login, and SANGAP. Now next thing is to let me open main activity. Now I'm going to create a main activity view model from which we will get our auth result user token to observe that and decide whether we need to send the user to the login page or not. So let's quickly add our main activity view model. From that, at the root level of our project, at the root package of our project, we need to create a new Kotlin class that I will name main activity view model. It is a view model, of course. Now this main activity view model need also a data store that we're going to provide here, private file data store, which will be our user settings, like so. Then here we need to have an auth state from which we will call our data store dot data, which returns a flow. Then we need to map that to our auth result data, like so. Maybe we can just get the token because that's all we are interested in it for now. So this will return a flow of string, which will be our user token. Now let's go back inside our main activity.kt file. We need to add our view model here, private var view model, which will be a main activity view model. We'll get that by view model. This one I think from coin, like so. Now, inside this surface, inside our social app team, and inside this surface, we need to get the token, which we call from our view model dot auth state. Let me close the project panel. Dot collect as state with life cycle, and the default value will pass null. So whenever the token is null, for example, we won't do anything until the token is either a value or is empty. That's why we also added the token as empty inside our user settings. Then I need to pass this token to our social app composable. So we need to receive a user token here, which will be a string, a nullable string, and we'll pass that here like this, value like so. Now if I go inside our social app.kt, we need to observe this token. Whenever it changes, we need to perform some logic, and for that, below our scaffold, I need a launch defect, and the key will be our token for the block. We will first of all check if our token is different of null, and if that token is not empty, if the token is not null or empty, now in that case we need to call our navhost controller dot navigate. We'll navigate to our login destination dot route. After navigating, we can pop the back stack, and we'd like to pop backstack to home screen destination dot route inclusive to true, like so. Now the last thing that we'd like to do is to change the start destination. Last time we add that to our login.kt, we need to change this, remove this start destination from login destination. We need to add that to our home screen destination here, like so. Because if this is the starting destination, if the token is empty, then this navigation here will be triggered, and we will land to the login destination screen. If after logging in or signing up the user, our login view model or sign up view model updates the data store, then the user token will not be empty anymore, and in that case, if we open the app, our home screen will not our social app will not trigger this navigation, will not trigger this navigation. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me first of all check if my computer actually points to the correct IP address. Alright, so it's actually the correct IP address. So let's run the app. You would also need to run your server app in case it is not running, like in my case here. So I need to run also this server app. Great, the app just launches and it actually crashes. So let's check that. So where it is, the log card. Yes, I know where the error is coming from. It's because we didn't provide this main activity view model to our app module for the dependency injection. So we need to call view model, sorry, and provide our main activity view model like so, and call the get for the data store dependency that it needs. Now we can relaunch our app. And it crashes again. Okay, so what else have we been doing bad? Okay, I was looking at the wrong error. So the new error says that missing Android context exception. Yes, of course, this is because let me close this. So this new error is because when you see our app module, we're using this Android context from our coin from our coin library, but we haven't told coin where it can get this context that we need to create this data store file. And for that, we need to open our social application, this application class, and we need to call this Android context, and the context will be this social application like so. Now let's rerun our app. So hopefully this time it will be working. It seems that we couldn't navigate, so our logic is not working. So okay, let me close this and review the logic that we have implemented so far. So let me also close this. All right, so so this is a mistake. We need to navigate one. Okay, let me think about this. When do we need to navigate? We need to navigate if the token is not empty and it is blank. Yeah. So if the token, so okay, we need to navigate when the token is different of null and that token is empty. Yeah, normally this is the condition that we need, not the other one. We need to navigate to the login destination if the token is different of null and it is empty. Let's now rerun our application. Normally this is the condition that we should check for. Great. So okay, this time we navigated to our login screen because we don't have any token. So let's go to the sign up screen and try to create a new user. Now let's create a new account. After creating a new account, normally the token that will be that will come from the server should normally be stored inside our application, and we shouldn't navigate again back to the login screen, hopefully. So let's see that. There we go. Now we are inside our home screen. Let's close the app like so and reopen that again. and we didn't navigate to the login screen, which is great. That it means that the token has been successfully stored. I'm going to stop the video here for now. So in the upcoming videos, I'll try my best to make at most 2 videos in which I will explain all the remaining UI that we have to create for our Android. Then we'll make another big tutorial to finish with the server, and we'll come back to Android to implement UI part, and then we'll move to iOS part. That's how I would like to do this. I don't promise you that I will do that, but I'll try my best to make all the remaining UI videos in at most 2 videos.